What? She asked in a whisper. What are you talking about? She looked into the man's eyes who had just given her the information. Alexander will not be able to make it, so I'm standing in for him, he said to her. Before he could complete what he was saying, she turned around and wanted to leave. Once she turned, her mother locked eyes with her. Get back, her mother muttered angrily. She turned back and went to stand beside Alan. So how is this supposed to work? She whispered to him. Just follow the priest, and everything will be okay, he said in a smooth baritone voice. She actually was excited about getting married to Alan when she saw him at the altar waiting for her, because he was quite handsome. He was tall and well-built. He wasn't the superstar kind of handsome, but he had a nice face. He didn't look like a womanizer to her, so instead of being hurt, she thought she was marrying Alan, only to realize that he was just a representative of her husband-to-be. The demon of a man was not present for his own wedding. Why was I made to come to this wedding when all of us can get married without being here? She said to herself. Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today to join Ophelia Bennett with her husband. Her husband? She said to herself, looking at the priest quizzically, who in turn ignored her. It was like they had warned him of her attitude. She shook her head at him as he continued. May we have the rings now? Alan took out a ring and gave it to Ophelia. Ophelia, say after me. I, Ophelia, take Alexander to be my lawfully wedded husband, to have and to hold in sickness and in health, till death do us part. As the priest was saying these words, Ophelia muttered under her breath, This is nonsense. Alan, who was beside her, was smiling. He had never seen such a feisty woman in his life. I, Ophelia, take Alexander to be my lawfully wedded husband, to have and to hold in sickness and in health, till death do us part, she repeated, wondering where the husband she was making this vow to was. Now you may put on your ring, the priest said. Not in her life had she ever seen such a wedding done like this before, and everybody seemed okay with it. Put on your ring, the priest said, so I could just vow to myself and put on my ring. Wow, this is ridiculous, she whispered to herself as she put on the ring. Now, I declare you the wife of Alexander Prescott. Please come this way and sign on the dotted lines, the priest said, pointing to a table that had a document on it. She walked slowly to the table, biding her time. The few steps she took to that table were the few steps of freedom she had. So I'm signing away my life to this man? For how long? I hope for a few months only, because that's how contractual marriages are. But in the novels I have read, none of the characters in contract marriages married themselves. This is just ridiculous, she said to herself. When she got to the table, she looked closely at the document. She wasn't going to sign any documents without reading them first. She looked at the top where was written marriage register. She filled in her name and signature. She noticed that Alexander's name was at the top, and he had signed. When she was done signing, they gave her another document called a marriage certificate. On it, her beloved husband had already signed on the dotted lines. This guy is a psycho. How can you sign a marriage certificate without being here for the marriage? Can you believe this? She said to herself as she signed on the dotted line as well. So there goes my freedom and happiness, she said to herself. Once she was done, bodyguards appeared beside her. Alan was also at her side, holding her hand. They led her out of the premises into a limo. She remembered that throughout that day she had not even seen her younger sister, not even once. She wondered if she spotted her in the crowd. What was really going on? As she sat in the car, she asked the driver, I haven't packed any of my things yet. The driver ignored her. How rude, she muttered under her breath. Is this how everybody is going to be, not telling me anything? What kind of man is this? She said to herself as the car moved. Her thoughts kept swirling in her head as they made their way to a place she had no idea of. So they probably could go and kill me now, and I have no idea. No one knows where I'm going to right now, and my mother doesn't care, she said to herself, crossing her arms. She had decided within herself that once she saw her husband-to-be, she was going to give him a piece of her mind. She wasn't going to spare him one bit. Her mouth was going to move, and it was going to move without any hindrances. In no time, they had gotten to the mansion. The driver came and opened the door for her. She got out and was met by a butler. She looked around at the big, massive building in front of her. The whole place was elegant, like a building from the 16th century. For a split second, she felt she had been dropped at a castle. Its old-looking stony walls made her feel like she was thrown back in time. "Hello, Mrs. Prescott. Welcome to your new home," the butler said, bringing her mind back. She looked at him briefly. "Hello," was all she could say as she kept looking around. "Inside, it's more beautiful, Mrs. Prescott. Why don't you follow me and I will take you on a tour," he said, smiling at her. "Please. What's your name?" she asked him. "My name is Adrian, ma'am." "Adrian, I wouldn't like any tour today. I'm a bit exhausted. Can you take me to where I will be spending the night?" "Of course, madam. Please follow me," he said, gesturing for her to follow him. She followed him and he led her to an elevator. He punched a few codes and the elevator opened. She went into the elevator with him as they rode up. Once they were on the selected floor, the butler got out, and she followed after him. He took her to a room that was out of this world. It was the most massive room she had ever seen, and she grew up in a mansion, so that says a lot. She looked around and admired it. It didn't look like anything for a lady. She wondered if she could easily change the beddings to a different color and maybe the painting as well. At that moment, she caught herself. Am I already thinking like a wife? "Madam, this will be your room. If there's anything you need, please do not forget to press this button over here, and I'll be right at your door," he said with a smile, bowing to her. "Thank you very much." With that said, the butler left her alone. She looked around the room and found the bathroom. She was not disappointed with what it looked like. She saw some toiletries arranged. The whole place was already set for her. She wondered if this was how all the rooms of the mansion were. She walked into the walk-in closet and saw some clothes. She checked the sizes and saw they were her size. She saw some jewelry already arranged and some shoes and handbags. "I guess my husband is not a total dweeb. At least he thinks about the little things that I may need, but I probably wouldn't wear all of this," she thought to herself. It was at that moment she realized she had not brought any other thing from her apartment, and she wondered if any of her belongings would come to this place. She also remembered that the butler had told her about the button she could press, so she went to press it. In no time, Adrian was at her door. She opened the door and saw him standing there. "Adrian, how do I get all my things from my apartment here?" "Madam, all your things are already here." "When were they moved?" "I'm not at liberty to say, madam." "You're not or you won't, Adrian." "Madam, let's just say your husband really cares about you." "Adrian, you may go," she said as fury started to burst into flames in her head. How could they break into my apartment? How dare they? She wasn't finding any of this funny. She stomped her foot on the floor angrily. "If this room wasn't so beautiful, I would have destroyed everything in here," she said to herself. She stormed to the bed and jumped on it like a petulant child. She knew that her reactions were childish, but she didn't care. She just wanted to be free from this prison. So where is the man that I will call husband? I don't see him anywhere. I don't see him coming to welcome me. I should have asked Adrian. In fact, I think I'll just order pizza, so I feel better. She took her phone and dialed the restaurant available on her app and waited for 30 minutes for her order to be ready. She ordered her usual double cheese pepperoni pizza like she always did when she was upset or sad. It seemed to cure and heal everything inside her. This time around, she ordered 2 boxes just so that she could eat herself fat. Maybe when I'm overweight, he will let me go, and he will forget about the contract, she told herself. But did she really think it was that easy? When she saw that her order was almost here, she made her way to the entrance. When she got out of her room, she realized it was not going to be easy. She got to the elevator and realized she didn't know the code for it. So she looked around and found the staircase. She followed the staircase down and came to the entrance. She stepped outside and, right on time, the delivery man came to a stop in front of her. It was then that she noticed there were bodyguards at the corners of the building. The man removed his helmet to reveal the same man she saw at her family's house. He smiled at her. Well, well, well. We meet again. I'm surprised you're not drunk this time. You seem like the partying type, he said as he unhooked her food from the back of his motorbike. What do you mean by that? She said angrily. Don't be upset. The last time I saw you, you were drunk. It's not my fault. I'm just a good observer, the man said. Good observer? Hand over my food to me. I'm done talking to you. Lady, I'm not done talking to you, but I have one question, though. Do you switch from mansion to mansion? Because this is the second one I'm seeing you at, he said while holding her food behind his back. He had no plans to give it to her yet. He wanted some time to talk with her, and she seemed like the type that would just walk off. Mister, I'm not interested in anything you have to offer, so it's best you stop trying, she said, looking away from him. How do you know I have something to offer? I guess you are psychic. All these lame lines will not work on me, she countered. Really? He said, stepping closer, his voice dropping to a whisper. You look like the type who enjoys a challenge. Let's make a bet. By the end of the week, you'll be begging for more. She turned to face him, eyes narrowing. And if you're wrong? He smiled, a glint of something dangerous in his eyes. Then I'll disappear from your life forever. But if I'm right, you'll owe me more than just a date. Her heart skipped a beat as she felt something.